that actually happened. Like, we went completely viral from the first hour. The first hour, we hit our target.
First hour? What was your target?
I think we hit like 20K in an hour.
Wow.
Which was insane. Like, that was by no means close to enough to build this company, but it was the greatest feeling in the world that there was thousands of people interested in this product. So the first night, next day, we woke up and we were at like 45K, and I was like, wow, like, I can't believe we're almost halfway to 100K, which is like the biggest number I've ever seen in my life.
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you got beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, a better business.
Go with your gut.
I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders.
When it started as a fun business idea between college friends had spiraled out of control. Saddled with international shipping costs, low student funds, and no way to market their product, Oliver and Rick hit a logistical wall before they fully began. Luckily, this wasn't the only idea these two 20-year-olds had in their pocket. Now, Olivier Momma is the young co-founder of Ekster, the groundbreaking company behind the most successful smart wallet in the world. Generating $25 million in 2021 and nearly $40 million this year, Oliver's place on Forbes 30 Under 30 seems like a no-brainer. But before he was sewing together prototypes in Hong Kong or launching a Kickstarter campaign, Oliver cultivated his adventurous spirit in his unusual childhood. With his father's job sending the family around the globe every couple of years, Oliver's cosmopolitan outlook grew as he adapted to each new country he called home.
We'll get back to the podcast right after this break.
AI is eating the web as we speak, and what that means for business is this. The time to embrace AI technology is now, because for people like us, automation helps us do more with less while continuing to meet and exceed business expectations. It's basically magic. If you haven't tried HubSpot's new AI features, you should do that. Content Assistant and ChatSpot are two brand new tools that will immediately save you and your team's time. HubSpot's features run on ChatGPT's tech to help you make compelling content and manage your CRM way faster than before. We're talking ad copy, data analytics, workflow automations, all with the chat command. So work smarter, not harder, and head to HubSpot.com/artificial-intelligence to learn more about using AI to streamline your marketing, sales, and customer service ops. Find out more about how to use AI to grow your business at HubSpot.com/artificial-intelligence.
And now, back to the podcast.
So can you tell me a little bit about like the moves that you made in childhood, maybe some of the ones that are significant, maybe some stories of these different countries that you were bouncing around, and why were you bouncing around in the first place?
Definitely, yeah. So in my youth, I never lived in one country for more than 5 years. Part of this was my dad's occupation, but also part of it was that our family loved experiencing new cultures. So every time my dad would come to my bed and tell me we were moving to the next place, I would be so extremely excited. And when I tried to explain this to my friends back home, they were like, how can you even enjoy that, moving on from your friend groups every 5 years? But for some reason, there was this intrinsic need and want to get out there and see all these countries. So we moved from Amsterdam to Japan to Milan to Barcelona to Hong Kong, Singapore. It was all over the place. And I did really feel that this helped me develop as a person over time. And if you look at our team right now, we have over 12 different nationalities and people live in over 10 different countries. So it's definitely something that stuck with me, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I know. Definitely seems like something that stuck with you. And I'm very curious, like in each of those countries, I'm sure you had incredible experiences that allowed you to empathize with a group of people that maybe had a different culture than you, a different lifestyle. I was wondering, in all these places that you lived in, was there any culture that was most, I guess, like shocking, like in terms of culture shock? What was hardest to adapt to?
I would say Japan was definitely the number one most shocking. Through traveling through Europe, everything definitely has something similar. But if you land in Japan, everything's the opposite. Literally, the way you open the door is different. So it feels so strange to walk around there and see that every sign on the street or the way of crossing the streets is just a totally different experience. I mean, I was the only blonde kid at my entire school. I was actually at a Japanese school for the first 3 years in Tokyo. So I would go to school in a full Japanese kimono outfit with wooden shoes often.
Wait, wooden shoes?
Yeah, this was a traditional school. So I went to one of those full Japanese schools in the heart of Tokyo. And then I would enter the classroom and I would actually get lessons in Japanese because this was the best school at that time in Tokyo, and this was a while ago. So honestly, it was an amazing experience. We had the typical Japanese power nap that we would have in the afternoon at school. We would play Japanese games, board games. And I was literally the only blonde kid at this whole school. We have these school photos, and you just see this bleach blonde kid in the middle. But it was also really exciting because when I walked over the street, and this was over 20 years ago, I would get approached by people that just wanted to take photos because it wasn't that common back then that there was.
Yeah, you look so different.
Yeah, so I remember this one time, my parents told me this story, but they were actually walking me over the streets of Tokyo, and it's super busy. And we get approached by this scout guy from a band, and he says, "We need your kid's photo on the cover of our CD." So they literally took me to the studio that same day, put these huge headphones and goggles on my face, and took a photo. And this was on a CD cover that was spread over millions of different CDs. So this was all over Tokyo.
Wow.
Insane.
Do you own the album?
Yes, I definitely have it. Yeah, I'll send over a photo. I can send that to
that
you
would
guys.
be awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
this is like
super cool.
such an odd experience. It's a cool one.
Yeah, so I mean, in that sense, I felt privileged to be in a different culture and people respecting that. I've never really had any negative experiences in Japan per se. They're all very polite over there.
Yeah, no, it seems like really overwhelmingly positive. I was wondering if we could talk about how you met Rick, who would become a pretty important person in your life.
Definitely. So Rick Scharnick is my co-founder. One of the two co-founders I have, the other guy is Richard Kahneman. So Rick is my friend who I actually met, funnily enough, in the US. We are both enrolled in a Fulbright scholarship to study in the US for 1 year. And we were practically the only two Dutch guys at this university in Pittsburgh. So very quickly, we found each other. And very quickly, we became very close and realized we had the same interests. Besides, obviously, being a freshman and doing all this typical freshman stuff, we were also very obsessed with businesses and with Kickstarter.
So how did you guys start thinking about business ideas? What were some of the first business ideas that you and Rick came up with?
We would scout delicacies from different countries and bring them to other countries that they would work well in. So we thought there's this Dutch fried delicacy called the croquette. If we import that to the US and bring this to campuses, that's going to work. And we actually went through with it.
Really? So wait, how did you develop that? What year is this now we're talking about?
This is 1 year later. So we brainstormed about this while we were in the US in 2011. A year later, 2012, we started really kind of exploring the idea and actually shipping boxes. Then a year later, we were actually joining this startup competition. It was like a pitching competition in Rotterdam. We thought, okay, if we can pitch this idea, we can win a prize, we can win an office space and get coaches and all that stuff. So we actually joined this pitching competition with this Deli Scout idea. We showed them a video where we traveled to the US to the campus and we were having people try this food and people loved it. And we had a production facility in the US that could make it. So the whole proposition was going to work. And then we pitched and we got second place and we actually got a bunch of cool prizes that helped us get into the startup scene. in the Netherlands.
What do you get?
We got an office space in this startup tower with a bunch of other companies around us. And we got a certain amount of hours of coaching of these startup coaches.
So you start Deli Scout, but this is not the company that you're doing now. So when did you start to run into either trouble or into a point where you wanted to pivot?
So we realized very quickly that we were both second-year students in the Netherlands, still didn't have any funding, didn't see food as something that was going to work for crowdfunding, because with crowdfunding, you want to send people products and, have them use it. But food is different. It's like a recurring product. So we realized that frozen foods, traveling across the sea to the US, or having to build a factory in the US, there was just too many loose screws in the whole equation. And we realized that we were just not experienced enough to do this. But this did get us to start brainstorming other ideas, which led to the next thing.
Was it hard to relinquish this idea?
So to some degree, there was definitely some disappointment there, because we did put a lot of time into it. We obviously invested in those flights to the US. We invested in ordering in bulk. A lot of time, that we could have been spending doing student stuff. We spent on this. And back then, I didn't really see the value of giving up and, accepting that I learned a lot from it. I just thought I want to keep going. But I also realized that it just wasn't feasible, and we were in the right place right then to continue with other stuff. And we didn't really have hard feelings together. I think we kind of both accepted it. We had just a very clear talk about it, accepted it, and decided to move on to other things. And we were both busy enough to know that the next thing was around the corner.
We'll get back to the podcast right after this break.
Marketing Against the Grain, hosted by Kip Bodner and Kieran Flanagan, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. If you want to know what's happening now in marketing, what's ahead, and how you can lead the way, this is the podcast for you. Hosts Kip Bodner and Kieran Flanagan share their marketing expertise unfiltered in the details, the truth, and like nobody tells it to you. One of the episodes I really liked was about Apple's new VR headset, and is it bad news for Mark Zuckerberg? Listen to Marketing Against the Grain wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, back to the podcast.
So what did that next thing become?
The next thing actually happened while I was living in Hong Kong. So right after this Deli Scout fiasco, I moved to Hong Kong for an internship in something that I am really bad at, which was finance. I was at a big commodity trading firm. I was in the treasury department as a treasury intern.
Was it soul-sucking?
Yeah, completely. The only cool thing is that I got to go to my first job with a suit and a bag. I mean, after the first 2 months, I was like, what am I doing? That first week of feeling cool in your suit, that dies out pretty quickly. So I was in Hong Kong, and after, I think, a month of working at this treasury firm, I realized, okay, this is definitely not what I'm going to do with my life. And I also realized in Hong Kong that there's a lot of things that are different to Hong Kong and Europe and the US. So a lot of people were paying with their phones already in Hong Kong. And also in China, I traveled to Shenzhen, and I realized everyone was doing everything with their phone. So wallets weren't even a thing there anymore. So I realized, okay, there's definitely a step between the future of paying everything with your phone and where we're at now in Europe. Everyone's still carrying a dad wallet, a big bulky bifold that doesn't even fit in your pocket. There has to be some kind of middle step. And so I talked to Rick, and we started thinking about what if we make the next generation wallet, one that really is built for the future, one that's safe, efficient, and not bulky. And that's when the whole research phase started. We looked into all the different crowdfunding platforms and all the different wallets that existed, and realized that there was no next generation wallet out there on any crowdfunding platform.
Wow. So this is like a hole in the market.
That's what it felt like. It really felt like a big opportunity. And so we started researching what were the upcoming wallets and which features people actually appreciated about them. Started reading forums, Reddit, everything. comments on Kickstarter. And that's when the drawing phase came. So we did all our competitive research. We started drawing out designs and just like emailing them over to each other, FaceTiming each other, and literally going to the market in Hong Kong, buying leather and sewing stuff together. I still have some of those early samples, really funny to look at. And so from then, we knew that the next step was to start creating an official prototype and shoot content to create a Kickstarter campaign and go live.
Okay, so you're testing everything, but the real test is, are people actually going to like it enough to purchase it on Kickstarter? So you make your video. What is the response on Kickstarter?
So this campaign took at least a year to build because there were so many things that came in between, like the prototype as well. Like the prototype for the video wasn't even ready when we used it in the video, was barely even working. So this whole process that went ahead of the Kickstarter campaign it felt like you're building an entire business. But it was the three of us. It was Richard, Rick, and I, and we bundled our powers and built it and went live with it. So probably the coolest feeling was right when we went live, we had all our family and friends from all those years of traveling across the globe. We had all of them share it, back it, and give that initial push. And that's the most important thing on Kickstarter, is that the first hour you hit your goal so that the algorithm picks up the campaign, and then you come to the most popular page where everyone can find your campaign. So that actually happened. Like, we went completely viral from the first hour. The first hour we hit our target.
First hour, what was your target?
I think we were at like 15K, and I think we hit like 20K in an hour.
Wow.
And then, which was insane. Like, that was by no means close to enough to build this company, but it was the greatest feeling in the world that there was thousands of people interested in this product. So we started scaling this thing. So the first night, next day, we woke up and we were at like 45K, and I was like, wow, like I can't believe we're almost halfway to 100K, which is like the biggest number I've ever seen in my life back then. So that was after we woke up, and then we realized, okay, this is the thing, like this is gonna grow. And that's when we started working together with a bunch of agencies and doing all the performance marketing side of things to really scale this campaign and make it go viral. A lot of work went into reaching out to different media outlets. So we reached out to, I think, almost 1,000 different PR outlets.
Wow.
And, magazines, all manual, with our pitch of the idea and the ask if they would want to write about our idea. And it actually only took about 3 big outlets to cover us for it to go completely viral. So I believe Mashable, Engadget, and Discovery Channel covered it, and then everyone just started covering it after that.
No way. So what did that do to the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, that completely shot it up. I think that was right in the middle of the campaign, which is usually the dip where most campaigns slow down and they don't have as much traction because the urgency is gone. And right in the middle of that dip, we started noticing it picking up again. And we used all that traffic to retarget with Facebook ads, with performance marketing. And then it just completely took off. You can see like on the graph that there's an exponential curve that goes up at the end of the campaign.
How much had you raised at that point?
So I believe it was like 1 week until the end of the campaign, and we were at 250K USD.
Wow.
So then the crazy part happened is when, like, this last week, it just almost doubled. So it went to 350K, 360K, I believe, US dollars in the last week, which is insane. Orders just started flying in.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot.
It's crazy.
Wait, so what are you thinking you want to do with that?
So we actually, like, when we were making our initial calculations, we thought, like, we need about 100K to make this happen. But to be honest, like, we could have never even imagined how many extra costs came around the corner. From shipping to duties to returns to all those things that you just don't really know about before starting a D2C brand. So when we realized, okay, we have a big bag of money, but like we need to be super careful with how we're going to spend this. The first thing we did is we flew to China, and we went straight to the factory to start producing this thing. And that's when the chaos started. We were just living in China and trying to get by and trying to get these products out of the production line. But the sampling process was dramatic.
Dramatic in what way?
We spent so many nights just pulling all-nighters to try to get this product to work. And there was just a few things in this mechanism that were so hard to get right for the easy access for the wallet. And then we thought we were almost there. And then we produced 100. And then we realized, okay, there's still something wrong. We had to go back to the drawing board. And that just kept happening.
How do you actually get these things shipped out? How do you actually get it from an idea on Kickstarter to an actual business that is making money?
Yeah, that's also a place and a department where a lot of things went wrong for us. So I think shipping was probably the biggest issue we had in the end after production. So right when your campaign is funded, you start being spammed by hundreds of different companies that want to work with you in some sort of way. So many of them are fulfillment companies. And some of these guys are just, they're very small, but they act like they're very big. And they try to get your business because they know you're not experienced. So we signed up to one of these 3PLs, third-party logistics partners in Hong Kong. And we thought, okay, that'll be simple. We ship the products from China to Hong Kong, and then we drive them there, and then they ship it all over the world from there. Never really realizing that this partner, first of all, wasn't good enough, but second of all, was going to charge so much for all over the world. And we did ask them for the pricing before, but there were so many extra costs that came into play, with duties and shipping and all that stuff. We completely miscalculated that one and lost a lot of money on shipping. There's even a big batch that went out twice to these people. So there's a lot that went wrong there. Definitely a lot that was learned as well. But you work together with these partners, you send them Excel lists of your orders, and then they ship it all out. But in that process, everything can go wrong.
Yeah, it sounds like it did, but eventually you get back on track. Where do you think Ekster is today, and what are some of your proudest accomplishments?
Today, we've actually grown to become, one of the thought leaders in the space. We were one of the biggest wallet brands in the world. We are the biggest smart wallet brand out there, the only one that's ever integrated technology into their products to make them better. And we're moving towards becoming a travel and carry brand that helps you move through life better.
So where does that actually leave you in terms of the business? How many wallets are you selling a year? Where is the business financially now?
So last year we closed off at 25 million US.
Wow.
And this year we're nearing 40 million for the end of the year. That's our target.
That's huge. All from a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, so we've sold a lot of wallets. There's definitely a lot of people out there with our wallets. And when we came to the US a few weeks ago, actually, we met a few people that just on the street that had our wallets just randomly, which was super cool to see.
That's amazing. So looking at this journey and going back to the beginning, what do you think is the biggest learning lesson that you've gotten from this whole thing?
I think what the approach we took with benchmarking what other people have done before and learning while doing is probably the best move we've ever made. So what I would definitely recommend people to do is look at the leaders in the market. Who are the best D2C brands out there? They've done this before. They've learned from their mistakes. They've hired the best in the business. Look at what they're doing and see if you can learn from that to apply that to your own business. That's definitely one of the biggest learnings, and one of the things that we always try to keep telling our people here at the company as well. We're with almost 40 people now, and they're spread across 10 different countries. So I think it's important to keep learning and keep looking at the best out there.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share with a friend.
If you have any questions or comments, DM us at Finding Founders Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Finding Founders is produced and hosted by me, Samuel Donner.
Our Chief of Staff and Operations is Jessica Lynn.
Our audio editing team lead is Adrian Tapia. Support from
Irene Van Berkel,
Matt Fernandez,
Renee Buchanan,
Sophia Donner,
David Saide,
Ashley Jimenez,
Nicholas Guzman,
Aaron Devereaux,
Sanessa Gisley,
and Lois Choi.
Our outreach and research lead is Kenny Ong, with support from
Sarah Hobson,
Charisse Tan,
Harushi Kanauchi,
Kristen Hagelin,
Aya Cortez,
and Valencia Lu.
Our writing team lead is Elizabeth Bowen with support from
Aiden Ashworth,
Nikki Mukawa,
Sylvie Wang,
and Eric Mena.
Our design team lead is Shruti Ramanand with support from
Tiffany Dang,
Yao Liu,
and Dina Gabriel.
To see more of what we're up to, subscribe to our newsletter at findingfounders.co. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.